A very good evening and welcome to this Sunday's edition of News First Weekend, coming to you live from our News First studios in Colombo. I'm Lanka. Let's start off with a look at the stories making headlines this evening.
Laws that change as per the prerogative of the police. JVP stands against new vehicles being given to MPs. Observation committee appointed to combat ragging at the Kalaniya University. Suspicious behavior at the National Medicine Regulatory Authority and Action TV expose. Youth shot dead by politician's son in road rage incident in India.
Motorists are facing unexpected situations near no parking signposts around the island. We received this report from Anuradhapura.
There are numerous instances where motorists face many hardships as a result of parking near no parking signs. Are they facing such situations due to the ignorance of the law? Only the judiciary has prerogative over the law. Even then, there are limitations. Police officers do not have prerogative in enforcing the law. Using such a prerogative is a serious wrong in terms of the Constitution. It amounts to a violation of fundamental rights. If a police officer is filing cases based on his prerogative, then it is illegal under police regulations too. There are provisions to take actions against such steps.
Locals of Pambahina, Balangoda say the belief that a Thera went missing in the Paraliyangala mountain landslide is in fact a myth.
It has been 4 days since the landslides hit the Paraviyangala mountains in Niyandagala. The landslide struck a section which is a pathway in the middle of the jungle, which is around 3 kilometers away from the Pambahina junction on the Colombo-Badulla main road. It was said that Venerable Horana Anombadasithera, who was residing at the Niyandagala Aranya Sasanaya, went missing when the landslide washed away a section of the Paraviyangala mountain. Only a bedsheet, pieces of wood and pieces of concrete which are believed to be in the walls of the Aranya Sasanaya were found during search operation. Even though it is suspected that the Thera went missing in the landslide, residents of the area believe that the Thera is still alive. The reason for this belief is because the Thera goes to an unknown location in the jungle to meditate. The Thera is very tough. He doesn't consume alms sometimes. He stays up to 7 days without alms. If the Thera feels sick, he comes to our house and requests for alms. He will sit down for a while and then takes back the alms to the Aranya Sasanaya.
The Thera had sent a message saying he is meditating and requested not to bring alms until the 15th. He used to carry this on for 3.5 to 4 days, but eventually he waited for an entire week. Later it became 8 days. This was the longest time he had asked us not to bring alms, which was until the 15th. The Thera is still alive somewhere. I will definitely come here again and check if he is back on the 15th before giving alms to the Aranya temple on the 20th.
Developing Story, brought to you by
Royal Institute of Colombo, excellence in higher education.
You're watching News First, and up next is a look at Action TV.
A media briefing organised by the National Medicine Regulatory Authority, which was to be held on Wednesday, was cancelled on the orders of the Secretary of the Ministry of Health. The National Medicine Regulatory Bill, a product of over 40 years of dialogue in society on the necessity of a national medicine policy, has been through a harrowing journey to becoming an act. A few years ago, it was said that all copies of the draft bill had been misplaced. Given that current NMRA officials were instrumental in miraculously drafting the current act from scratch in less than 100 days, it is the responsibility of the Health Secretary to give these officials an opportunity to speak to the people and reveal the truth. Although the bill was drafted from scratch in less than 100 days and passed into law, the competent authorities have failed for more than a year to demonstrate that the NMRA is functioning as per the provisions of the Act. While the NMRA was not present at the monthly medical supplies review meeting held on the 28th of March under the auspices of the Director General of Health Services, the manner in which the NMRA sought to correct the earlier mistake at the next meeting is not a cause for confidence. This is because at the committee meeting held on Wednesday, the NMRA was represented by an ordinary pharmacist. It is also problematic that the Director General of Health Services had been irresponsible to the extent of failing to inform the relevant persons of what was to be discussed at the meeting up to the morning of the meeting. As per the NMRA Act, the chairman of the authority is not a full-time officer. However, the manner in which the current chairman is functioning as a full-time officer gives rise to suspicions. This email from the chairman bears testament. The email, which mentions that the NMRA had organised a Shramadana and stock verification program between the 26th and 29th of April, has also been sent to an external party by the chairman. This individual had previously served as a pharmacist attached to the now defunct National Cosmetic Devices and Drugs Regulatory Authority and had been sacked due to certain irregularities. Either the chairman of the NMRA or the authority itself is duty-bound to explain to the country why an internal communication was sent to an external party. Further scrutiny of NMRA emails reveals that another NMRA official had sent an email directly addressing Indian medicine manufacturers. The picture that is painted in this email, which has been written to note that there is now integrity and transparency in the procurement of medicines and which mentions a doctor by name, is negative, to say the least. Shouldn't the NMRA be given an opportunity to express their thoughts on these matters to the country? Secretary to the Ministry of Health, over to you.
The JVP says that it does not approve of any special relief provisions provided for parliamentarians amidst the current economic crisis.
As a party, we have very clearly stated to all governments to provide MPs with a vehicle during their tenure in office and reclaim them once their term ends. That is our policy and our stance. So we do not agree with whatever happens apart from that. We have made our stance very clear in Parliament and other relevant instances. It is not relief, it's called privileges. It would be wrong to call them relief. It is not fair. They are actually called privileges and benefits. It is not at all justifiable, because it is not fair at all to grant such privileges to MPs while the people of the country are slapped with taxes, causing a huge burden on the people. We do not approve of it.
Views were also expressed on the allegations that are raised against the JVP through the media. We are a political movement who will always stand for media freedom and the rights of journalists of this country. The JVP was actively involved against the rule which was prevalent in the country and was instrumental in its downfall as well. Which is why the Rajapaksa clan has targeted the JVP and are attacking it. If they are trying to intimidate the JVP by these allegations and by slinging mud, we have to say that it is due to their ill knowledge of the JVP and their poor judgment of the JVP. You might recall that it was Anura Kumara who was considered the opposition leader in the previous parliament. They are unable to bear this reality. It is Comrade Anura and the JVP that has become the obstacle for Mahinda Rajapaksa to take up the platform of the opposition. He held the presidential election 2 years early and tried to hold on to his presidency. That was unsuccessful. Then he tried to come to parliament as the prime minister, and that too was defeated. Now what is left third on his agenda is to take up leadership of the opposition in the political platform to his hand. Mahinda Rajapaksa does not have any other answer now. It was proved on May Day that he cannot even achieve that answer.
Attending a public meeting at the Galgamore Public Market today, former President Mahinda Rajapaksa expressed the following views.
They are calling us rogues for everything, as if they've never been in our cabinet and held cabinet ministerial positions for 8 years. So the only person was Mahinda Rajapaksa. Remember this, you cannot solve problems by insulting people, causing a burden to them and betraying us to our enemies.
Now, speaking in Colombo today, National Unity Front leader Asad Salih claimed there was no space for dissent under the previous regime.
Today we see that wherever the defeated president goes, he makes a statement that for 8 years there was no one in the cabinet but himself, and that is why only he is being called a thief. Those who were in the cabinet then are in the cabinet today as well. But if they had said anything in the cabinet back then, none of them would be alive today. Sachin Gunawardena was known as his eldest son back then, and his eldest son himself came out and said that the father who raised him is a rogue. So what more does the people of this country have to say?
Speaking in Matara today, State Minister of Finance Lakshmanya Papewardena said that governments cannot be formed in sudden urgency by misleading the public.
Only those who have left the party and its colours can cause this split. But the people cannot split. What we wanted to do was to prevent a split among the people and show that the people are in one place. We showed that in Galle. Basil Rajapaksa says that the rally in Galle was successful. That is the reality. So we are at a firm stance today, and come the next 2 to 3 months, this stance will only get stronger. Some question as to why the president cannot form a government. Well, governments cannot be formed just like that. A government can only be formed after the party is strengthened. State Minister Lakshmanya Papewardena expressed these views while attending a meeting between rural leaders of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party in the Mathura district.
Minister Sajith Premadasa says an opposition group is spreading false propaganda among the people.
The defeated joint opposition has latched on to the topic of national security and is waving baseless lies around it in an attempt to portray a tall story about how there is a grave security problem in the country. The great pundit of the joint opposition, G.L. Piris, whose entire body is made up of brains about the constitution, is saying that when the Northern Provincial Council approves of a federal system, it is a serious problem for national security. So this great pundit had failed to tell you that just because a provincial council adopts a resolution, it does not become the law of the country. His Excellency the President and the Prime Minister were elected on the promise of protecting a unitary Sri Lanka.
The minister expressed these views at an event held to donate building materials for 419 low-income families in Angunukulam Palace, Hambantota.
Now, speaking in Mathura today, Parliamentarian Buddhika Patharana expressed these views.
Some people question the present government about the development of the villages. Now every year, public representatives initiate a 1 million rupee project together with the locals of these villages. Politicians of the present government are not looking for proposals but to implement it. That is their speciality. We take your proposals into consideration and provide the guidance on how to implement it.
The parliamentarian expressed these views during an event to obtain suggestions from 2 villagers under the project to provide each village with 1 million rupees. The villagers were Tibbatua and Kanagalagama in Akurasa. The Sunday Times newspaper revealed today that Sri Lankan Airlines pilots have declared that they have quote-unquote no confidence in their Chief Executive Officer Captain Surendra Ratwatte.
The newspaper reports that the accusations are contained in a letter written by the President of the Airline Pilots Guild of Sri Lanka, Captain Renuka Senanayaka. The letter had been addressed to the Chairman of Sri Lankan Airlines, Ajit Dias, after the pilots held an extraordinary general meeting on the 26th of April. The president of the Airline Pilots Guild of Sri Lanka in his letter has stated that the statements made by the CEO of Sri Lankan Airlines at a meeting that was held on the 21st of April 2016 were threatening and demeaning to the pilot community. In addition, the letter reads that according to these statements, the antagonistic and threatening language used by the CEO and his demonstrated lack of competency in his capacity, the ALPGSL membership has unanimously decided to place on record their loss of confidence in the current CEO, Captain Suren Ratwatta. When contacted by News1st, the CEO of Sri Lankan Airlines, Captain Suren Ratwatta, said that he cannot express any views on the matter as he had not yet seen the article published in the newspaper. Newsfirst also contacted the communications manager at Sri Lankan Airlines, Dipal Pereira. Pereira said that he will make a statement on the matter tomorrow after holding discussions with the chairman of Sri Lankan Airlines.
World Thalassemia Day was observed today.
Thalassemia is a genetic disorder. Reduced levels of hemoglobin and red blood cells are a symptom of thalassemia. There are over 3,000 thalassemia patients in Sri Lanka, with 60 new cases being reported each year. Doctors opine that there is an increased risk of children contracting thalassemia, an inherited autosomal recessive blood disorder, when the parents are blood relatives. If marriages between carriers are prevented, then we can prevent the birth of children with thalassemia. Every young man and woman must undergo a thalassemia test prior to marriage. Doctors point out that thalassemia is not restricted to the children of couples who are blood relatives, noting that the disorder can be passed on even when only one of the parents is a carrier. Thalassemia can be diagnosed within 3 to 4 months of birth. The symptoms are very clear. It is a very serious disease. Children suffer from severe anemia due to the lack of blood. Eyes take on a yellowish tinge, there is a pallor in the skin, and the stomach swells. However, it is more difficult to identify minor thalassemia, which is like a hidden visitor. Minor thalassemia could be present in normal people who do not display any symptoms. While there are about 1 million carriers in Sri Lanka, there are only 3,000 patients. Even you, watching or listening to this right now, could be a carrier. It can only be diagnosed through a blood test. Tests are carried out free of charge at government thalassemia centres in Ragama, Kurunagala, Anuradhapura, Badulla and Kandy, and at the Medical Research Institute in Colombo.
4 elephants were killed when they were hit by lightning in the Kerala Ketiava area in Mahavilachya. A female elephant and 3 of its calves were killed as a result of the lightning strike. A farmer who had discovered the dead elephant after noticing a stench in his farm this morning had informed the Mahavilachya police regarding the matter. The veterinary surgeon of the Northwestern Wildlife Zone conducted a post-mortem and concluded that the elephants had died as a result of being struck by lightning 2 days ago during heavy rains. Meanwhile, wildlife officers managed to rescue an elephant who had fallen into the ZD Canal in Sevanapitiya, Valikanda last evening. The elephant had fallen into the canal in the Ginidamana area in Sevanapitiya and had been washed downstream as a result of the strong current before becoming stuck at the sluice gate. The elephant, who was rescued after an 8-hour-long operation, was released to the Sevanapitiya Reserve. Authorities at the Kalyan University said today that an observation committee has been appointed with a view to eradicate ragging from the campus.
There was a complaint regarding the ragging of a female student. As soon as we received the complaint, the university asked that an entry be made at the police immediately. We gave instructions for that. We are enforcing the convention reached with the University Grants Commission and the Commonwealth Universities Association to prevent ragging and the harassment of women in universities. A committee has been appointed. I wish to reiterate now that we will not allow any room on campus for ragging in any form.
Meanwhile, at an event held in Navalapitiya yesterday, Higher Education Minister Lakshman Kiriyala levelled accusations at the university administration over ragging at the Kalaniya University.
They must accept responsibility to control this. It is not the government but the Vice-Chancellor and the administration that governs universities. They cannot wash their hands of this. If there is ragging in the university, then the Vice-Chancellor and the administration are accountable. The students too should be aware of this. Yes, we are taking all preventive measures. The government has given universities the independence to take the necessary steps and we are working accordingly. We accept responsibility by taking preventive steps. We always speak of ragging, but we never speak of the institutions that prevent it.
Farmlands in the Velangiri project have been destroyed due to the erosion of the banks of the Daduroya.
The Velangiri irrigation project in Bingiriya, Kurunagala was initiated in the 1960s with the Daduroya serving as the main water source. Fields in Velangiriya and Rasanayakapura on either bank of the river are irrigated through this project. While it was possible to pump water upwards as a result of the Daduroya being shallow when the project was initiated, this is no longer possible. In 2014, the government intervened to build a rubber mound as a corrective measure. While an abutment wall was built from the Velangiri agrarian settlement, this has led to the flooding of farmlands in the Subasingapura agrarian scheme on the opposite bank. Meanwhile, the river bank has eroded to a depth of about 20 feet.
The Daduroya has become very deep because of this. If this continues, all our farms would be destroyed. Over 25 coconut trees have fallen into the Daduroya so far. We informed the divisional secretary. An official from the disaster management unit visited, but nothing happened thereafter.
Arjit Singh, the popular Bollywood singer, is serenading a sold-out crowd at the Havelock Park this evening. Arjit Singh arrived in the island at 4:30 this evening. Famous for his song Tum Hi Ho from the Hindi movie Aashiki 2, Arjit Singh came to the limelight and went on to win the Best Male Playback Singer award at the 59th Filmfare Awards. The event has attracted both the young and old in their numbers. MTV and NBC are the exclusive media partners of the event. And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of News First Weekend. Thank you very much for joining us. Good night.